So as most of you I'm sure know by now, there is a devolving situation going down in Los Angeles, California right now in the surrounding areas. I'm actually shooting this video on Monday afternoon, which means by the time it's posted, things could look drastically different. So I just wanted to state that at the top. But all of this kind of got started because people started peacefully protesting against ICE raids in Los Angeles. Things quickly devolved because Donald Trump deployed the National Guard over the weekend, and then on Monday, he deployed active duty military to the streets as well. I mean, this is just the authoritarian wet dream that I'm sure Donald Trump has been dreaming about. But the whole problem with it is that Donald Trump kind of created this whole story out of thin air to give himself the pretext to deploy the National Guard. And Gavin Newsom went on with MSNBC on Sunday evening to kind of dispel many of the myths that Donald Trump is putting forward to try this authoritarian power grab. So let's go ahead and take a look at a few clips from this interview. And we'll go ahead and start off with this one where Gavin Newsom comes out and says he did this illegally, he invoked the law illegally, and then he tried to lie to the American people by saying that, oh yeah, the National Guard, they calmed everything down, except there was only one problem with that. The National Guard hadn't made it to LA yet. So if you guys do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe.
Well, as a preview of this lawsuit.
Well, under his executive order, it specifically notes, and under what the DOD did, is they had to coordinate with the governor of the state. They never coordinate with the governor of the state. I've worked with the National Guard. We've deployed the National Guard. We did 3,000+ folks have been doing logistics work and fire recovery work, and they're fighting the fires, the rattlesnake teams. We did the same back in George Floyd. We have no problem working collaboratively in a mutual aid system with local law enforcement, but there's a protocol, there's a process. He didn't care about that. And the worst part, he completely lied. He said in a tweet that everything's now safe, everything's fine. Is that the case, Mr. Trump? He said because he deployed the National Guard. The Guard hadn't even been deployed when he said this. It's Orwellian. Simply lying to people. Unconstitutional, illegal act. His mess. We're trying to clean it up.
Yeah, so this is what Donald Trump has been doing, right? He creates this fictitious story and then uses that story as a pretext to grab more power. We saw this with the tariffs, for instance. He invoked a national emergency to give himself the unilateral authority to start implementing these wide-scale tariffs. Court ended up shooting those down, but we are seeing him use the exact same playbook right here. This is the authoritarian playbook. He creates this story out of thin air with maybe has a little bit of a kernel of truth, and then he uses that to grab more power. This is what Donald Trump does over and over and over again. And by deploying National Guard to these mostly peaceful protests, you are just inflaming tensions, right? This is what Donald Trump wants. He is going to war with the people of LA. Let's go to move on to this clip where Gavin Newsom just comes out and straight disavows any violence that we are seeing on the streets of California, which is obviously the right thing to do.
These images are unacceptable. These kids on the car, the folks that are taking advantage of this, these aren't peaceful protesters, a lot of these folks, a lot of great people out there doing the right thing. But you get these insurgent groups coming in, sort of these anarchists that are in there to create real problems. And they're just playing right into Donald Trump's hand. And they need to be called out. They need to be arrested. It is wrong to destroy other people's property, and it is wrong to create the conditions that only exacerbate this. But Donald Trump, at the end of the day, is the sponsor of these conditions.
Yeah, he's exactly right here. And I absolutely agree with him. Don't engage in violence. We do not need to give this fascist administration any reason to start cracking more skulls. Be peaceful. Don't go burning down cars. Don't go standing on top of the charred up cars. Don't go blocking ICE vehicles. You are just going to get yourself hurt or somebody else hurt. If we turn out in big enough numbers, we can do more damage peacefully, right? We need to make sure that we are getting into the American psyche in a positive way. But if we got people running around, maybe some opportunistic assholes engaging in violence, throwing rocks or whatever at these police officers, that doesn't do anything to help any of these undocumented immigrants or any other immigrants or any other people who are targeted by this administration. This is what they want. They want us to engage in violence so they have more of a reason to be violent back. This is how authoritarians work. So please, everybody, stay peaceful, show out in numbers, but don't get violent. Don't go being violent towards the police or others, law enforcement officers. I mean, we do not need to give these fascist fucks a reason to start cracking more skulls. We just don't need it. And he is right to say that by Donald Trump sending in these troops, he is only inflaming. He's just basically pouring gas on these flames.
But the peaceful protesters, we want to keep them safe. We want them to exercise their fundamental rights. We want to keep those that are enforcing the laws in a respectful and responsible way also safe. But Donald Trump needs to pull back. He needs to stand down. Donald Trump is inflaming these conditions. This is Donald Trump's problem right now, and if he can't solve it, we will.
Again, he's exactly right. On Sunday evening, right after the National Guard had finally started showing up on the streets of LA, things were relatively calm, right? We had a few hundred protesters. I don't even think the protesters reached the 1,000 mark. Things were relatively calm. Were there pockets of violence here and there? Did a car get burnt down? Yes, but things were not out of control. Okay, this was not the 1992 LA riots or whatever the equivalent might be. Things were relatively calm. People were mostly peaceful, and we had a few pockets here and there, a few individuals who were engaging in violence, and that is what Donald Trump used to deploy the National Guard. Now, on Monday, things are devolving even more rapidly, giving them even more of a reason to start deploying more troops. This is the exact opposite of what we actually want. Remain peaceful and then allow them to keep on deploying these troops. If we remain peaceful, it's going to work out much better. But when we're out there blocking freeways, when you're out there smashing in windows, when you're out there engaging in violence and a whole bunch of other dumb shit, it just doesn't help the cause. It just doesn't help the cause. So yes, should we be protecting the rights of these protesters? Absolutely. We all have a First Amendment to get out there and protest away. But when we start engaging in violence, it only hurts the entire idea of what we're fighting for here. So let's go to move on to this clip where Gavin Newsom actually says, yeah, we actually spoke recently, except Donald Trump didn't mention deploying the National Guard at all, which is quite strange.
You spoken in the last couple of days to the president about any of this?
Yeah, we talked for almost 20 minutes, and this issue never came up. I mean, I kept trying to talk about LA. He wanted to talk about all these other issues. We had a very decent conversation.
When was this?
This was late Friday night, I think about 1:30 plus his time.
After the protests had started here?
After the protests, and he never once brought up the National Guard. He's a stone-cold liar. He said he did. Stone-cold liar. Never did. It was a very civil conversation. I've always wanted to approach engagement with the President of the United States in a respectful and responsible way. But there's no working with the President. There's only working for him. And I will never work for Donald Trump.
Now, I thought this was quite interesting. You had Gavin Newsom speaking to Donald Trump over the phone even before the National Guard was deployed, and Donald Trump just wanted to talk about other things. I mean, how insane is that? I mean, he's just such a bad faith actor. He's such a terrible leader. It just blows my mind that you have people in the MAGA base who view him as some sort of god, the perfect man, the leader, the tough guy. I mean, he is such a coward. He sends out the troops to crack skulls so he can feel like a big, bad, tough guy. But do you ever think that Donald Trump would actually sit down and try to work his way through this in a more, what is the word I'm looking for? Diplomatic type way? I mean, he's just such a coward. He's the wannabe authoritarian that we have been warning about. He is salivating at the idea of sending troops into more places because, for whatever reason, that just gets his rocks off. Absolutely insane. Then Gavin Newsom puts out this warning. Warning, threat, whatever you want to call it, speaking directly to Tom Homan, who, as most of you probably know, is threatening to arrest people like Gavin Newsom.
Get your hands off these poor people. They're just trying to live their lives, man. Trying to live their lives, paying their taxes. Been here 10 years. The fear, the horror. The hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. You know, I don't give a damn. But I care about my community. I care about this community. The hell are they doing? These guys need to grow up. They need to stop. And we need to push back. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting. So, Tom, arrest me. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go, baby. You know, I'm just getting so sick of Tom Homan going around all these different Fox News interviews, threatens AOC, threatens mayors of Baltimore, wherever it is. Step up and do something if you're actually going to do that. You know, it is quite clear that this whole thing in Los Angeles was quite orchestrated. Tom Homan was on the ground in Los Angeles before these ICE raids even started. They wanted to make a show of this. What they're getting right now in Los Angeles is probably exactly what they wanted. This gives them the pretext to start sending in the military, to start sending in the jackbooted thugs, to start cracking skulls. I mean, they're just the fascists that we were warning about before Donald Trump got reelected. I mean, we were warning about this very scenario, where he'd go into the city, he'd start, you know, provoking all the different people to do something stupid. You get one person and then boom, the smackdown starts to begin. This is the authoritarian playbook, man. This is how they operate. It is just so predictable at this point. And you got Tom Homan running around pretending, or not necessarily pretending, threatening to arrest people like Gavin Newsom. Well, Gavin Newsom's saying, come at me. Come at me. If you're going to do it, just fucking do it. And then he had a message for Donald Trump himself.
I have a feeling there's a pretty good chance that in the White House there might be a television on and he might be watching us
I hope so.
right now.
Yeah, he can learn something.
What might you say to him if I'll give you the floor, you have the opportunity, what you weren't able to say to him on that phone call or calls that he hasn't taken today?
I mean, where's your decency, Mr. President? Stop. Rescind this order. It's illegal and unconstitutional. And I said it, I'll say it again, it's immoral. You're creating the conditions that you claim you're solving, and you're not. And you're putting real people's lives at risk. This is a serious moment, and it requires serious leadership. And it's time for you to be a commander-in-chief of the United States of America. And I will have your back if you want to work in a relationship of trust and truth in the spirit of our founding fathers. But you come after poor kids, you come after families, we will do everything in our power to stand up and stand in your way.
Now, obviously, Donald Trump probably isn't going to work with Gavin Newsom. Like I said, he's probably having the time of his life right now, watching the National Guard and maybe the Marines starting, you know, to engage in violence on the streets in Los Angeles. I mean, this is what Donald Trump has been wishing for. This is what he wanted to do in his first term, but because there were some reasonable people around him to talk him off that ledge, he wasn't able to do it. And now in this second administration, you've got the ICE Gestapo running around into cities, targeting workers. They're not targeting the criminals or the national security threats like they claim. They're tearing families apart. They're going after people who have been here for more than a decade, who are contributing to our communities. I mean, it is all so gross. I mean, they're showing up at courthouses and hiding in the bushes. And when an immigrant is going to court to engage in our legal process, once the hearing is done, they snatch these people off the streets, ripping their due process rights away. Or they'll have the judge who works for the executive branch dismiss the case so they can just round them up and get them out of the country like that. I mean, it is all so disgusting. There's no empathy. There's no compassion. These people are disgusting. They are gross. They are little fascist freaks, and they are getting their rocks off as they inflame tensions in Los Angeles. I mean, it's all so gross. I mean, we got 3.5 years left to go. And we are already here, where Donald Trump is deploying National Guard. He's deploying Marines to the streets of California. He's waging war against American citizens, all under this guise of, you know, everything was out of control, riots were taking place. It's all just a lie for this authoritarian regime to grab more power. That is what this is all about. And we should stand up and push back against this peacefully. Peacefully. So, I will leave it there for now, guys. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We are trying to build something here on the left that adequately pushes back against the right-wing media ecosystem that just launders this fascist nonsense for the Trump administration day in and day out. So if you do like what I do here, please do remember to smash that subscribe button. Of course, that is free. And if you guys want to see kind of a timeline of how all this got started from, you know, Friday afternoon when the peaceful protests began and how it all devolved, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. That's kind of like a jumping off point for how this all began. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one.